Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations. I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Rain Wayland. Oh,
Nailed it.
so yeah, we're getting better at that, you know.
Yeah.
Only been doing this for 4 years.
Yeah.
So I just have to bring this up, man, because we were talking about it off mic just now, but I can't get over it, bro. Ashley and I saw Across the Spider-Verse.
Jealous.
And it's phenomenal, man. Now, as we were talking about off mic, I don't consider it one of the best Spider-Man movies, but because the best for me is Spider-Man No Way Home, but this is number 2. It even knocks Into the Spider-Verse down on my list because it's just so good. They built upon, like, I can't get my thoughts straight, dude, because it was just so good.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
And this is the only kind of information I want to know because I'm looking at the posters. I'm looking at the promotional artwork. Did they age up Miles to account for the years? That's cool.
This isn't necessarily a spoiler, but it's a year after the events of Into the Spider-Verse. So he's a year older, and you can tell that they animated him 1 year older.
Yeah, they aged him up, and I was like, oh, that's interesting because in animation you don't really see that very often. So
man, it does exactly what you want for a perfect sequel. It builds upon the first movie, adds new character arcs. It just everything is just so perfect. Even the soundtrack is on point, man. The soundtrack is out. I will say they had a little bit more, speaking of the soundtrack, they had a little bit more focusedness. They were kind of more focused on the soundtrack in terms of they had one artist pretty much kind of curate the whole soundtrack. So when you look it up on like iTunes, and I think even on Spotify here, let me pull it up on my phone real quick. It says Metro Boomin presents Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So Metro Boomin pretty much did majority of the songs on the soundtrack.
Oh, okay, cool.
I thought
majority. It would have been funny if you're gonna be like, and the Zach Brown band did the entire soundtrack.
Could you imagine country music as like the through line for the whole movie, dude?
No, I can't.
I mean, because like the first soundtrack, Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack, was great, but this one's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'd highly recommend it. It's so good, man, and all the voice acting was just great. Of course, I do find it interesting that 2 different actors that are in the MCU voice characters in this, Oscar Isaac and Haley Steinfeld.
Oh yeah.
Moon Knight and Kate Bishop. I just think it's very interesting that they're also a part of Sony's Marvel whatever. But it was good, man.
No, I want to see it. I want to see it pretty bad. I watched if you're talking about what you watched, I'll talk about what I watched. I watched Blackberry. With Jay Baruchel and Glenn Howerton, and it was awesome. So go see Blackberry. I rented it on iTunes. So it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. Glenn Howerton is awesome. If all you Sunny fans, this comes out Tuesday, new episode Wednesday of Sunny Philadelphia. So that's exciting. A new season. He's awesome. Jay Baruchel's great. I forgot the director's name, but he's also in it. And he makes some really cool choices. Hang on. I'll tell you exactly who it is in just a second. Matt Johnson. Matt Johnson, who directed it, is also in it. He plays Doug. And there's some really cool... I'll tease, there's some cool sound design that becomes an important theme throughout the movie. It's really, really good. Definitely recommend Blackberry. Didn't think it was going to be that good, but then,
I'm assuming you went into it thinking like, oh, it's going to be just a regular biopic.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, these are surprising, these, but I like stuff like this though, right?
Uh-huh.
I love biopics no matter, I mean, it depends, right? Because we've done an episode on it, but um, like Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, I didn't like that, right?
Right.
Um, there's, it depends. But if they're clever enough, if they're unique enough, if they're creative enough, like for instance, that's why Rocket Man works for me, because they do it like a straight musical. They don't do it
Mm-hmm.
as a traditional music biopic, right?
Right.
Because Elton John's very theatrical, therefore the entire thing needs to be very theatrical and over the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, the other thing is that he's an unreliable narrator. So
Right.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
go
man.
see Blackberry.
Yeah, man. I saw that on your letterbox and I was like, huh. Which I think
Yeah.
is kind of funny. You're you're gonna think this is dumb, but I just think it's funny that um, Jay Baruchel plays one of the guys who invented BlackBerry, but then in a post-credit scene in the Second Night at the Museum movie, he plays the guy who made the Motorola phone.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
because
funny.
like Ben Stiller's character goes through that famous picture of that sailor kissing the nurse after World War II had ended,
Mhm.
and he bumps into Jay Baruchel, and and he drops his phone, and he's like, "Hey, man, you dropped your what is this thing?" Because it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
And then like in the post credit scene, he's like taking it apart, and his mom's like, "Come downstairs and have dinner," and he's like, "Hang on, mom, I'm working on something." And she's like, "Johnny Motorola, come downstairs now."
Dumb.
And yeah,
Dumb. I do want to plug one more thing. I watched it today. I was completely blown away by it. Those of you who love stand-up comedy but want a more, I don't know, a more emotional, fulfilling set, um, Ali Sadiq released Domino Effect a couple of years ago on YouTube. It's still there. He released Domino Effect Part 2, called Loss. It is remarkable. Ali Sadiq. You guys need to
hmm.
check this guy out. He is incredible. Um, a great comedian, but also a dynamic speaker and performer. So his life story is tremendous, man. It's crazy.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was drug dealing, gang banging, went to prison. Um, dude, his prison stories are hilarious. But um, but that it's amazing. He's amazing. Ali Sadiq. So
Nice.
yeah,
Well,
for
to kind
free
of
on for free on YouTube. Sorry, yeah, I like it when comedians are starting to put their stuff on YouTube. They're full specials. So
uh-huh.
each of these are hour specials. Um, so uh,
Yeah.
YouTube, go check it out.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because it's a good segue. The only way that most people will be able to see the movie we're talking about is either physically or if they find it for free on YouTube. Um, because I thought we were going to record relative to this recording yesterday.
Mhm.
And so I was like really worried. I was like, shit, I haven't watched the movie yet. I need to watch it. So I'm like scouring like all the streaming apps. Couldn't find it anywhere. Found it on YouTube, but I was like, I don't trust this. So
Yeah,
thankfully we did not record yesterday, so I was able to watch it
yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
with my Criterion version, which you can actually see right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but Jeremy, what are we talking about today?
Today we are discussing Fritz Lang's Ministry of Fear.
So this was a first watch for the both of us, but since
Yeah,
this is your pick, um, how did you feel about it, man?
it's the weakest of the bunch so far. Unfortunately, I liked it. The seance scene was total Fritz Lang, and I loved
Mm-hmm.
it. I thought it was awesome. Um, Even just the opening with the clock, like that stuff was really cool. That stuff was Fritz Lang. The rest of it is sort of like, and it's not his fault, according to IMDb and such. That it's studio interference again. It's writer interference. Um, it's not a true adaptation of the Graham Greene novel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, by the way, not to be mistaken for the wonderful actor Graham Greene, who a lot of you may know, who plays Hans Bitterbuck in The Green Mile. So,
Ah,
um, wonderful actor. God, he's so good. Anyway, um, yeah. So, not my favorite so far. Um, Yet there was cool stuff about it, right? Again, seance
right.
scene. Um, I kind of like this idea of one little mix up has this innocent guy thrust into this, web of espionage and conspiracy,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of fun. But overall, give it a B minus. So.
Yeah, I saw that on Letterbox after I watched it. I was like, "What did Jeremy rate it?" And I was like, "Ooh." I think I gave it the same rating,
Mm-hmm.
just because I liked it up until the end. The end is what ruined it for me,
Yes,
and of
definitely.
course, and of course, we'll get there.
Oh my
Um,
god, I wrote it in my notes. I was so mad. Anyway, oh Jesus.
uh, okay, so I'll hit everyone with the synopsis. So Jeremy kind of covered it a little bit, but um, the Ministry of Fear follows Stephen Neal, who is freshly released from an asylum for uh, mercy killing his wife, which we'll get into. I don't know why that warranted him to go to an asylum, but there we are. Um, and just like Jeremy said, a simple mix up, um, wrong, not really wrong place, wrong time, but more of mistaken identity. He is catapulted into the world of spies and the Nazis trying to get information because it's supposed to be during World War II,
Mm-hmm.
which I have my qualms about too, but we'll get to later.
Okay.
Um, and he is just trying to uncover who's telling the truth, who's lying, who's really the head of this conspiracy ring, and why is it all revolving around this one charity. Um, and I kind of yada yada through some stuff, and because I did want to save some stuff for us to dissect,
Sure.
but that's Ministry of Fear.
Yeah.
Um, so Jeremy, I want to go ahead and tell you now. You know what was my first qualm with this movie?
Hmm.
Even though I did like it, I did like it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
ending ruined it for me, but I did have qualms.
Yeah.
My first qualm being this is supposed to be Britain, and there's like not, but like two British characters.
Yeah. There was a few times when I would be reminded that they're in Britain by just them using like the money, like them
Mm-hmm.
talking about the money. I was like, right, we're in England. I forgot,
Yeah, like oh god, what was the actor's name? I meant to look it up. The guy who plays Stephen. You know,
Oh, Ray
I
Milland.
I looked it up, and he's from he was at least born in Wales, so I was like,
Mhm.
okay, but I'm like, how long has it been since he's been to Wales though?
Well, it could also just be something like it might be something as simple as we want to hear thick British accents,
Mm-hmm.
but a subtle, sophisticated, that's in quotes, a subtle, sophisticated British accent might not sound very British to us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also we're watching this movie from 1944, so we're already expecting a certain accent, right? We're expecting that mid-Atlantic accent anyway. and so I think it's a combination of both, um, of those things, and also, you're right. There's not a lot. Two of our main characters are German and American.
Yeah.
So, and oh, shocker, the guy who has an obvious German accent's the real villain. It's insane.
But yeah, so yeah, because like when the movie starts, I'm like, oh, where are we supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
And then he mentions like, oh, maybe I'll go to London. I'm like, oh, okay. And then when he is trying to book a train, I'm like, you can't take a train to London, my guy. And then I was like, unless he's already in the UK.
I didn't even notice if the doctors had accents when they let him out of the
Neither did I.
asylum. I didn't
the
notice.
The first time I noticed was the ticket guy at the train station. That was the first time I noticed. I was like, okay.
But
So
again, I mean, this is like, who cares?
so
Um,
what you're saying is I've been spoiled by modern movie making that pays attention to things like accents.
I don't know. It's just certain things matter to certain people, right? Or certain
Right.
filmmakers. So I'll give you some examples since we're on the subject. Um, uh, Italian films. We've been over this many times. They don't care about synchronized sound in terms of
Mm-hmm.
dialogue, right? They don't even care if you speak the same language. They just, if they like your performance, you can speak whatever language you want. They'll just dub over it, right?
Right.
So they don't really care about that, right? Um, some Sometimes filmmakers will make a conscious decision to do something that doesn't make sense on paper but makes perfect sense in practice, like Craig Mazin when he made Chernobyl. Just had the rule: no Americans, no American actors, and
Mm-hmm.
no one's using a Russian accent, because that's going to take
Mm-hmm.
you out of it, right? But
Right.
having someone be American is also going to throw you a little bit. So British accents mostly, right? We're using British actors. We're using other European actors. Skarsgård, Stellan
Mm-hmm.
Skarsgård's in it. So we know where it's supposed to be taking place, right?
Uh-huh.
But we don't need people to put on a fake accent, right?
Okay.
That's just as unrealistic as what they're doing right now, right?
Right.
It's just speaking English, so it doesn't matter. So again, it could be that. It could be just it didn't matter. It could be just we wanted the best actors, right? Or you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
anyway,
maybe, but it it bothered me for like the first couple minutes, and then
sure.
I just kind of let it go.
Yeah, I understand.
Um, okay, so do you just want to begin with the the sort of mystery
So
that?
yeah, we can start with the initial like what got him into it, right? Which is the cake.
Mm,
So it seems silly, right?
hmm
That they're hiding information in a cake, and that's how they're disseminating their intel and their stolen whatever information. But it's
right.
not that silly. So I've watched videos of like former KGB spies um, and other people of that espionage world or whatever, and the way they gather, hide, and disseminate information is crazy. And you wouldn't expect it to be the way that it is because we're so used
Hmm.
to movies in Hollywood, right? That hiding it in a cake like and having the fortune teller give one piece of information to one guy to win the cake and then whatever, right? That's not super unrealistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just she told the wrong guy.
Yeah. Well, which as we learned, which as we learned later, he did say a combination of the code,
Yeah.
you know. So, but but yeah, if I'm being perfectly honest, I for a while I was like, why is Fritz Lang focusing so much on this fucking cake?
Yeah.
You know, because we focus on it for quite a bit, you know, because then we get the whole interaction with the blind man, and
Yeah.
then
Which is a fun callback to M, where they were, hiding people on the street to find the killer, right? And one of them was pretending to be blind. This isn't even
Mhm.
counting the actual blind guy, right? Um, there's that shot of the guy like following uh, Peter Lorre down the street, and he lifts his glasses up.
Mhm.
We get a similar shot in the train where he goes from looking up and sort of dazed to just looking straight at the cake.
Yeah.
Which I liked, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was like, is this gonna be the the whole movie? Is him just trying to figure out why everyone wants this cake so desperately? Which kind of is, but kind of not once he realizes it's bigger than just a cake.
Right.
Um so I kind of lost my train of thought, buddy.
That's okay. So
Yeah, where do you want to take us next?
that's fine. So once he gets he then gets connected um the Hilfas, right? So you have
Mm-hmm.
Carla and Will, is that right?
Willie.
Willie Hilfa. Hilfa is help in German, by the way.
Oh.
I know, right? And Hilfa is going to try to is saying he's going to try to help him get to the bottom of what the fuck is going on, right?
Right.
I believe he's a lawyer, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe I'm not. Maybe he's a private eye. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. I mean, it
Well,
does.
no, he Stephen hires a private eye,
Yes,
who
that's right.
does nothing really.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. He was in
um,
that office for like 2 seconds.
yeah, and then Willie, I believe, is the uh I think he's like the secretary of the charity,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
Okay. Um, and with getting that connection, then we get to my favorite scene, which is the séance,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is like this, which is where he finds the guy who was supposed to win the cake, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that guy ends up showing up at the séance, and then he ends up getting shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the séance, um, because Steven is getting too close, in
Mm-hmm.
that moment, right? He's connecting too many dots too fast, and so Hilfa uh, kills
Willie.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, no,
Willie kills
he kills him
him.
because his goal was to scare him out of London,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which obviously did not work.
No. Then really, it's just the movie. I don't know, sort of gets a little confusing or a little boring or both. Um, with him
Yeah.
just now trying to figure out what's going. I mean, again, it's because it goes from that really cool seance scene to just
Here we are.
procedural, which is fine. I like
Yeah.
procedural stuff, but I don't know. This one, it just fell flat for me. I don't know why it fell so flat for me this time.
I
I
th- I think I might know,
okay.
or at least maybe. I mean, knowing you for as long as I've known, I kind of know how your brain works. I think what it is, because it was something for me too, is the movie does tend to present this mystery
Mm-hmm.
to us, which on paper should point to a fantastic mystery and trying to uncover this mystery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, guy gets mistaken for someone else and he stumbles into this, the spy ring.
Yeah.
But I think what happened was, and again, as you said, it wasn't Fritz Lang's fault. Um, we're focusing on all the wrong things, you know. Yes, Steven is hiring a private eye to maybe help him look into this. And he's connected with the people who, or at least the person who eventually reveals to be the bad guy, which tends to happen in most mysteries.
Sure. Yeah.
But we're focusing on all the, what I'm going to refer to as fetch quests. Like, all right, now, well, you got to get this piece of information now. Okay, well, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do this now. But to get that piece of information, we got to go, you know. And then sprinkled in between is the supposed drama, which is the budding love relationship between Steven and Carla.
Yeah.
Which it kind of hits out of nowhere that she's suddenly in love with him.
Sure.
After meeting him one time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean that stuff is just, you know, that's normal stuff. That's normal movie stuff. And we also get an explosion, which is kind of cool, whatever. But yeah, once we find out what's in the cake, though, that's when it gets interesting again, because it's American military strategies, right?
mm-hmm.
Maps and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
which I found very interesting.
Yeah, it's like the movie kind of piqued our interest a little bit with this mystery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they kind of dipped again.
Yeah.
And then piqued us again after that explosion, and they find the microfilm.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh,
shit. I'm back in. Let's go. You know?
Yeah. And you had that tiny crest with the seance, and then just kind of.
And then, you know, we had like I liked the bit with the Nazis like sewing stuff into suits and into clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was kind of cool, right? I was like, okay, I understand that. And it's like they had that separate operation at the tailor place to buy clothes. Which I thought was cool. Then, I don't know, like, we get that reveal that Hilf has been the bad guy the whole time. And I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
The guy who's clearly German.
Yeah.
You know?
I just wish, and maybe I missed it, I just wish they would have talked about his motivations as to why.
Sure. I mean, the motivations are semi-clear, because the end-all be-all is for the Nazis to win the war, right? I mean, that's sort of what the end-all be-all goal is. Him stringing Steven along is sort of weird. Like, why do that? You know?
Yeah, like
why risk it?
Yeah, if you don't want him to find out, and you've already kind of seen that he's so tenacious,
mm-hmm.
then just kill him. Like, I mean,
yeah.
Why try to scare him out of London? But
it was interesting. His backstory about, you know, Mercy killing his wife was really interesting.
Yeah,
I thought that was it was. I liked the character development there. I liked the backstory, because you're like, you know, he's in an asylum. He must be crazy, right? So
mm-hmm.
I think that's sort of, maybe that's on purpose to give us this sort of air of ambivalence or doubt with his character, right?
Right. Like, can we trust what he's? Yeah.
Right. Until we get that reveal why he was in there in the first place, and you're like, oh, okay, so he's completely sane, at least sort of. And then, you know, now we can trust him to finish and solve this whole thing. I also liked the it's such an interesting part of World War II, which is the continuous, constant bombing of England.
Mm-hmm.
And so they touch on that a little bit, which I like, because that's such a fascinating time, because you can't imagine the fear, you know, the constant dread, you know, and in the looming terrifying fear of just, you know, any second they could drop one, you know.
Oh yeah. And we kind of get that, you know, at the beginning of the movie with the cake, you know,
Yeah.
that bomb falls right on that dude.
Yeah.
Which I was like, Jesus
I
Christ.
know.
Like shit. The last Fritz Lang movie, we almost witnessed someone being burnt alive, and
Yeah.
now this guy gets bombed. Jesus.
Yeah, we've seen someone shoot themselves in the head.
Saw someone stab themselves.
Yeah, yeah. We've seen some wild shit. We've seen kids almost die. You know, I mean, we've seen some wild shit uh, during this series. Um, yeah, I. So yeah, that I liked, right?
Okay.
But again, you're right because we get motivations, we get backstory, we get all of that on Steven, but we don't really on Willie. And or
Yeah,
maybe I wasn't
especially
paying attention. So those of you who watched the movie and paid more attention than I obviously did, please let me know.
well, and because it's interesting because the film makes a very big point to talk about how Willie and Carla, outran the Nazis,
Hmm.
you know, like barely escaping Austria. So it's like, why
Right.
would Willie try to be helping them?
Well, because it's obviously a lie, right?
Right.
So it's a wonderful example of I guess modern espionage
Okay.
would be to watch The Americans. Um, that was on FX for years. Um,
Okay. I was like, what part in the movie do they say watch the American?
no, no, no. I'm telling you, if you want some modern day, because they are KGB agents that their entire life is a lie, right?
Hmm.
Like they're not. I mean, yes, they're legally married, but they're not. They don't know each other that well. You know, they had children, but it was only just to, you know, keep up the ruse and all that stuff. I mean, it's so interesting. Anyway, um, so that part I get. You know, of him just like it was obviously a lie that they escaped the Nazis. They are the Nazis, right?
Well, do you think that would be the lie that he told Carla too? Because she believes it,
Hmm.
you know, and she's completely innocent in this whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I think that maybe he was working for them the whole time, but maybe got an opportunity to spy in England, told Carla they're escaping the Nazis, keeping her out of it, but also corroborating his story, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that might have been the case there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, there is a lot of context sort of left on the table, and I'm gonna look to you to
Okay.
to talk about all the studio interference because I actually not till the ending, which I do want to spend some time talking about the ending. Uh, Definitely, I didn't feel studio interference until then. Then I was like, oh, that definitely seems like something Paramount would just kind of shove in there at the end.
Oh, it's atrocious. Yeah, I mean, he just said that he didn't like the writing. He didn't like the direction it was going, and he wanted it to be closer to the book, and they didn't let him. So, I mean,
I
that's
wonder
just
why.
I don't know. A lot of times adaptations are so weird, and I wish I knew more about like this era of Hollywood adaptations, right? Or
Hmm.
like what I would consider or we would consider older adaptations, right? We know the limitations of adaptation now,
Right.
but adaptation then, right? I mean, because it can be really close. I mean, look at To Kill a Mockingbird, right? I mean, that's of
Uh,
course that's 20 years after this, but um, but still, I mean, it's the book. I mean, it's damn near perfect, right?
yeah, I was just actually just about to say, yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird because I've only read the book once, but I've seen the movie at least two or three
Of
times, and
course, because it's amazing. Yeah,
it's almost exactly like the book.
exactly, right? And so you think it wouldn't be that there wouldn't
Hard.
be such limitations, right? Because I
Hmm.
mean, the the fundamental elements of filmmaking are still there for you to accomplish an adaptation,
Right.
depending on the source material, of course. But this is World War II era espionage, right? It's not, you know, slaying dragons. So I mean, you can, you know, easier to adapt, right?
Right.
And
And I would think so with such a grounded story. They would want to push to make it so like the book.
now
But
I'm gonna do some work. I'm gonna look up other things Graham Greene has written, because I don't really know. The only other, this is sort of embarrassing to admit, I don't know a lot of Graham Greene stories. The only other time I had ever heard it, or at least the first time I ever heard Graham Greene's name, besides in The Green Mile, was in Donnie Darko. They read a Graham Greene short story in his English class in Donnie Darko.
is that the no, that's not, never mind. I was gonna say, is that the book that's on his nightstand, The History of Time Travel or something like that?
No, that's by Roberta Sparrow, who is Grandma Death, who lives in the town.
Right, yeah, because I knew that was a fictional book.
Yeah, but they read. It's a story of these kids who steal a whole bunch of stuff and then destroy it, so they don't keep it, right? But anyway, so that's a crazy oversimplification of that story. But anyway, he wrote The Third Man.
Okay.
With Orson Welles.
Okay.
He wrote that book. He wrote. Let's see if I recognize anything else. Oh no, I recognize Third Man. I think The Quiet American. I've heard of that. It truly doesn't matter, but who cares? So adaptation. That's what we're talking about. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I would need to read the book, I guess, to understand what went wrong here.
Yeah, I did find an article that did kind of break down some of the differences from the book. I didn't read through all of them, but the one that struck out to me most was what happens to Willie. In the movie, Carla shoots him, which I should say, even though I had qualms with the movie, that she must have been a crack shot, man, to be able to get him right through the door.
Yeah.
Right as soon as he walked out of the door. I mean,
yeah,
good shot.
It was a good
but
shot.
in the book, apparently Willie commits suicide.
Oh.
He, I believe, if I remember correctly, what I read is he gives chase and then gets away, and they catch up with him, and he kills himself.
Classic.
As one does.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going out like his hero.
Which really would, that's hilarious. Which really would fall under a Fritz Lang thing, because I mean that's what happened at the end of Spies, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I don't know, that's an interesting change. But he didn't write it by himself, so he didn't write it at all. Normally, I was gonna say, Fritz Lang writes, or at least co-writes his stuff, but not this time.
I was gonna say, I feel like because I feel like the dialogue definitely was off a little bit. Because, I mean, considering we've only done 2 movies where we actually can hear people speaking,
yeah,
the dialogue is just so on point. Very, very. Reminds me of. I say it reminds me of, even though Fritz Lang is older, but reminds me of Tarantino and how he writes dialogue. Very, very natural and very tight. So I wonder if maybe he took Tarantino took some examples from Fritz Lang, but this movie, the dialogue was fine, but it wasn't as good as we've seen already.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, God, Jesus, and then that ending is just trash.
Okay, so I wanted to save it, but let's. I feel like we've been teasing it enough. Let's talk about this fucking ending. So here, build up everyone. So the movie builds to this really, really actually kind of good climactic chase. Carla has just killed her brother. Steven is trying to get her out of there, and all Willie's Nazi reinforcements are chasing them. And as you do in most movies, you run up to the roof because you can't go down, you got to go up.
Yep.
And this really, really well choreographed shootout happens. I will say, like, that I really liked how the shootout takes place. And then at the last minute, the Scotland Yard inspector shows up at the last minute to kill the last few Nazis, and Steven and Carla are safe. Honestly, the movie should just fucking ended right there. But instead, it doesn't. And I will let you tell everyone.
Sure. So it ends with them driving away, like along a beach or something, along the water, and it ends on a joke, which is so bizarre. It ends with her mentioning cake, and of course, Steven goes, "Cake."
Oh, like if they were trying to go for a bookend, that's not how you do it. Like, this whole movie started with cake and it ends with cake. Like, no, no. It should have just ended after they survived the gunfight. There we go.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Cary Grant and Arsenic and Old Lace. Like he was sort of over the top and sort of like, "Okay," you know, the way Cary Grant is in that movie, and it was really slapsticky and fucking dumb and doesn't fit with the rest of the movie at all.
Oh, yeah, not at all.
Very disappointed. I was bummed. I wrote it in my notes. I said a joke at the end. You know, it's oh man, come on.
What is this? Adam McKay movie? Actually, I love Adam McKay. I think he's only gotten better. But yeah, it because, like, even though I was like, okay, the movie's good, and that just, I was like, oh, that's not okay at all.
It's almost as bad as the gag reel at the end of Being There.
I was just about to say, are you going to bring up Being There?
Yeah, it's almost as bad as that. I mean, it's still not as bad, but because there it was truly like one of the best movies I've ever seen. Yeah,
right there.
Yeah, it's truly amazing, and then you just lose all the magic after that. So this one, it was a B. It was like a B+ movie, and then it ended with that joke, and I'm like, shut up.
C.
I was so mad, and because it didn't, it was so. It was so out of place.
Yeah,
and like, I mean, like I'm acting all mad. I'm not that mad about it, but it took me out of it for sure. Like,
no, yeah, 100%. Because we just saw. That's why I wanted to do the build up, because we just saw this really high stakes shootout.
Yeah, it's a shootout with Nazis. You know, like real. I mean, not real, but I mean, you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
they're not. This isn't a movie that's like it's an unnamed terrorist group. Like, it's Nazis.
I know. Yeah. It's not like
we're not pretending there's something else.
It's not Jane Silent Bob with the fake clit terrorist group.
Exactly. Like, these are legit, like, German Nazis. And then we end with that slapsticky thing. It's so bizarre. And what studio was this?
Paramount.
It was Paramount?
Even though it's interesting, the Criterion starts with a Universal.
I think they bought the distributing rights. That's usually how it works.
Okay.
So Paramount. All right. It's bizarre.
Do better, Paramount.
Yeah, I mean, you would think he'd be like MGM, but I don't know. It reminded me of the ending of Some Like It Hot. Have you watched that yet?
Not yet. I've got it right right there.
Once
Right
you're gonna
there.
laugh even harder at the end of Some Like It Hot because I just said it reminded me of this. So when you watch Some Like It Hot,
But isn't that supposed to be a
it is a
comedy?
comedy. It is a comedy.
Yeah. So to say, I'm like, I feel like then a joke at the end
But see,
is warranted.
that's why it took me so out of it because I'm like, it ended like Some Like It Hot, and that's really bizarre, you know. And it sort of does it it tears down all the framework they did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
like it,
all the. Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say it was just build upon you. Oh yeah, all the building up with the spies and the Nazis and trying to uncover that, and then it's like, nope, like this house of cards. What if we take out the oh god, I can't think of the thing.
that's okay.
The the load bearing thing.
Yeah, sure.
And there we go. House of cards falls down.
Yeah, I mean, they built a house and then they took a wrecking ball to it. I don't understand why they would have done that, but the only thing I could think of is it was the pressure from the studio, pressure from the writer. You know, it's. Um, I watched like the exact because I'm thinking like Fritz Lang was probably not happy with that. You know what I mean? Like I can't
Oh
imagine he
yeah.
would have been happy with that. And then I watched the Zen Diaries of Gary Shandling on HBO. It's tremendous.
Oh, I've been meaning to watch that.
It's amazing. And they were talking about the movie he did. I think it's like What Planet Are You From, which is
Uh huh.
a movie Gary Shandling wrote and starred in. And Mike Nichols directed it, which is insane. Mike
That is
Nichols,
insane.
directed The Graduate,
Yeah.
and is in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Um,
Yeah.
oh no, directed Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and he hated working on it, right? Because he didn't like it. It's not his thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's bizarre. I don't know. It starts off as a Fritz Lang movie, and it doesn't end up that way. It ends up as a
Yeah.
Billy Wilder movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say it's a lot like, to put it in more modern context, is it like Natural Born Killers? It starts off as a Quentin Tarantino movie and ends up being an Oliver Stone movie.
Sure, yeah. Um, yeah, it's sort of the opposite effect, right? Because it's
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, because yeah, Tarantino hated what Oliver Stone was going to do so
yeah,
much that he was like, just take me off of it, bro.
yeah. Even though I do really like Natural Born, that might be a hot take these days, but I like it.
I
Um,
don't know, man. It seems like everyone really likes it
I
now.
like it. Anyway, so yeah, Ministry of Fear. Um, I didn't love it, and I was
Yeah.
expecting to. I was expecting just let's keep the good times rolling and let's just keep going with these bangers.
Yeah, I was
But
about to say we've had some bangers. I mean, now let me give you my hot take.
yeah,
Of the Fritz Lang movies we've already done, this is still better than Doctor Mabuse for me. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's better than Spies
Spies.
for sure.
See,
Yeah,
Zach liked Spies more. I
really.
think than Dr. Mabuse, if I remember correctly. Zach, you can correct me on that later, but
Yeah, you know he'll comment, so you'll know he'll
oh,
tell
he'll
us.
text me if he listens to this one. But yeah, I mean, so far, so far. I mean, of course, M is the best one, but
I was about to say,
yeah. Besides M, I mean, that's a given that I'm gonna like that one the most. But I don't know, like I love the swing for the fences of Doctor Mabuse, right? I like let's just tell this long form narrative, right? That's super cool. I also like Destiny. I liked the tricks and the techniques and the overall storytelling of that one too. So I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. This one was just a miss for me, and that's sort of a bummer because I wanted to like it, and of course there's value. There's value in all movies, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, Again, the seance. The way we didn't really touch on that too much. The lighting and the stark darkness of it all with the bright lights. on that
Oh
woman's
yeah.
face is just so good. Um, that's true noir right there. That was awesome. And
Oh yeah.
just
Yeah. That.
it's not the first time he's done a seance either, because that's Dr. Mabu stuff right there. With the seance stuff. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't like it as much, which all will be forgiven next week. But this time this time I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I would say compared to Mars Attacks, we definitely stayed more on what we liked, what we didn't like
I
with the
forgot
movie.
about Mars Attacks.
Um,
To me,
it's
that's the
still
weakest Tim Burton one we've done.
well, and I think it's one of the highest ones of this current season. Hang on, give me a second.
Bullshit. People listen to
Give me a
that one.
second. Hang on.
It's upsetting.
Hang
Yeah,
on.
I'm still trying to think of more stuff to talk about for Ministry of Fear. And I
Okay,
just
so
can't think of anything.
the one that people have watched the most of this current season was Edward Scissorhands.
Mm.
Um,
Currently at 10 views.
38.
That's not much better.
And then it was our Batman one, and then Fury at 23.
It's not terrible.
And then tied is Destiny and Spies.
All right. Quit it.
So far the lowest one was last week's episode, Sleepy Hollow. It only has 3 views.
That was just last week.
Yeah, but
I know.
Fury was taken off within the first couple of days, dude.
Yeah, I'm still trying to think of other stuff to say. The next one might be better. I think it's Woman in the Window.
No, it's you've got Scarlet Street.
Scarlet Street. I'm sorry, I forgot I chose that one instead of Woman in the Window. Okay, so it's Scarlet Street next. That'll be interesting because it's Edward G. Robinson this time. In that one, that's an old timey gangster star, so that'll be really cool to watch. I think. It'll be interesting to see what he does with another crime film. This was more wartime espionage. Which again, I think I said before that I have trouble with espionage movies.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know, there's usually too much going on that I'm just like I just feel dumb. This one I was just bored through most of it, but or through some of it, not most of it. But I don't know, man. Yeah. Do you have anything else?
Not really. I mean, I talked about what I really wanted to talk about. I mean, I did like the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
hated the ending. Hated the ending. A lot of the fetch quest stuff was kind of boring. Just give me, and of course he couldn't have known, but give me Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Give me that somebody espionage.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the whole, I agree. It's not the strongest Fritz Lang movie we've done so far. So
no, but hopefully this will be the only low point. Hopefully Scarlet Street and I think The Big Heat are my other ones. So
yes,
hopefully
they are.
those. Hopefully those are killer, and then we'll just wash our hands of this one, and it'll be fine. Explains the price, by the way, on Criterion. So, so maybe that was the big mystery.
That they're like, well, the movie's not like the best Fritz Lang movie, but we still wanted to honor it, so
sure. Yeah,
half off.
I mean, again, B-. It's not horrible, but it's not the best. So, still cool stuff in there. I guess I'd still recommend you watch it.
Oh yeah,
especially if you like stuff like this. If you like, World War II espionage, wartime stuff, then yeah, totally recommend. It's like if you liked if you like war as a backdrop, which can be very compelling and very interesting, just a war torn setting. Most recently, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is set during wartime Italy, which is super interesting and compelling and a great idea. So I mean, if you like that kind of stuff, it's for you. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily for me. Not necessarily because of the wartime stuff, just because of the stuff that we just talked about, and especially the ending, of course. But if you like it, give it a try. Doesn't bother me. So.
Yeah. But thankfully, next week you're going to be happier.
Yeah.
So usually, we say our wrap up, but that was our wrap up.
You just did. Look at that. We still got it in.
There we go. So next week is my pick again. We're back to Tim Burton. But just like our last Tim Burton movie, this is also an adaptation, and kind of what we were talking about as far as I am aware, because I watched the behind the scenes, this is very close to its source material as well. But of course, with those Burtonisms, which I know you're going to be excited to talk about. So next week, we are talking about Big Fish. I think I know why you and I like this movie so much.
I like it because it's sweet. It's comfort watching, right? It's a fantastical story, but it's not necessarily a fantasy, right? It's just, I don't know. It's just so good. It's that father and son dynamic, which is
there. It is
really compelling. Well, that's why you like it for sure. It's that father son dynamic, and of course, Albert Finney is just unmatched.
Dude, shout out to Albert Finney
and Billy Cudrup and Ewan McGregor.
Jessica Lange.
Yeah, good lord, man, this movie's just great.
Yeah, man.
I haven't seen it in years, so this will be fun to revisit. It used to be so. For a while in high school, I stopped watching just regular television at 5 a.m. before swim practice because it was getting too repetitive. Like I would have, a few times a year, they would change up what's on, right? And so one part of the year would be like Monk, and so I'd watch every fucking episode of Monk because it was on at 5 a.m. And then Wings, and then Becker, and you know what I mean? So I got so sick of that. And so I started just putting on a DVD and just watching something just for a few minutes before I went to swim practice. And a lot of times it'd be Big Fish. I would just put that on before swim practice. It was awesome. And it calmed me down. It was again, it's so sweet and just it's a nice movie.
It really is. And of the Burton films I picked, now of course I haven't seen the final one on my list, but this is the most non-Tim Burton movie in my opinion. I mean, it has his I mean, it's a Tim Burton movie as soon as you see it because of some of the, as you said, fantastical things, but it's not dark. It's not dark in the sense of it's literally dark.
Yeah.
It's not dealing with, death in any, well, it is dealing with death, but we'll get there. But death in the sense of our characters have already died or are going to die. And, but it's definitely, of the ones I've picked, hang on, wait. I need to refresh my memory of which other ones that I have left, because
after this, I think
it's definitely one of my favorites that I picked for this season. Like I said when we did Sleepy Hollow last week, I did just recently rewatch it because I wanted to see the 4K transfer, and it looks great.
Cool.
But yeah, man. I know you've been really excited for this one.
I love this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna have Haley watch it with you?
I think she'll like this one. Yeah,
I feel like she would.
Yeah, I think she'll like this one. If I watch it this weekend, Mom will be here, so maybe Mom will want to watch it too. So I don't know. Mom's coming to visit, so I'm excited about that. But maybe she'll like it. I don't know. I know that she was excited about Sleepy Hollow, so I think she may have listened to that one. I don't remember if she did or not. I'll ask her. But
I think she commented on it
okay,
on
cool.
the video.
Then we know.
Yeah, here. Let's see real quick. Hang on.
This is fun to listen to, I'm sure.
No, she didn't.
That's because she hates me.
No, see, now she's gonna listen to this one. Seems like anytime you talk bad about yourself, that's the one she listens to.
Yeah, probably.
Oh man.
All right, man. We should probably go.
Yeah. Well, everyone, we hoped you enjoyed us kind of talking about Ministry of Fear, and we will see you next week for Big Fish.